Hello, Holy Trinity family. It's Tuesday in the third week of Advent. And for me, as I record this, is actually December 12th, our feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And for you all, it's the feast of, or the memorial of St. Lucy. Well, we have so many occasions to honor St. Mary, Holy Mary, Mother of God, in the past days, with the Feast of the Immaculate Conception on December 8th, Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe today, when St. Mary appeared to an indigenous man named Juan Diego, whose Aztec name meant talking eagle, and she helped him find his voice with the powerful Spanish bishop, who was the first bishop of Mexico after the Spaniards colonized it. So because of these two Marian celebrations, the Catholic lectionary makes room for the Annunciation to be read. Twice, actually. So 2 weeks in a row, the Annunciation is read at the Feast of the Immaculate Conception and Our Lady of Guadalupe feast. So just as a review, the Annunciation is only found in the first chapter of Luke's Gospel, and it is that truly amazing scene when the angel Gabriel comes to Mary, hails her, tells her she's found favor with God, and that she will conceive a son, and no big deal. He'll be great and will be called Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give him a throne of David his father, and he will rule over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom shall have no end. In other words, the long-awaited Messiah whom the Hebrew prophets foretold. So if it were year C in the Catholic liturgical cycle, when it's Luke's Gospel we hear on Sundays and not Matthew's, which we hear in year A, or not Mark's, which we hear in year B, if it were year C, we would hear the Annunciation once again on the fourth Sunday of Advent, preceded the week before on Gaudete Sunday, the pink candle, third Sunday of Advent, by the Visitation. So the Visitation, as a review, is only found in the first chapter of Luke's Gospel, and it is that truly joyous scene when a pregnant Mary goes with haste to visit her also miraculously pregnant cousin Elizabeth, who calls Mary blessed among women, the mother of the Lord, who believed that what the Lord had spoken would be fulfilled. What follows that scene, that Visitation scene in Luke's Gospel, is a song for the ages, Mary's Magnificat, or the Canticle of Mary, which heralds the greatness of the Mighty One who, and listen up to Mary's words, disperses the arrogant of mind and heart, throws down the rulers from their thrones, lifts up the lowly, fills the hungry with good things, sends the rich away empty, helping Israel, remembering his mercy, remembering God's mercy according to the promise to our ancestors. But because it's not year C and it's year A, we're hearing from Matthew's Gospel, which doesn't contain these scenes. But why am I still minutes into this reflection talking about liturgical years and the lectionary and not actually talking about the readings for today? Well, it is because I noticed this year that every Advent, whether it's year A, B, or C, here I go again, lectionary, we hear on one of the Advent Sundays those great prophetic words of John the Baptist about Jesus. And those words echo the great prophet Isaiah. Prepare a way in the wilderness, valleys shall be made, mountains shall be made low, valleys. Brian Flanagan preached on it last week. Anyway, never on any Sunday of Advent, whether it's year A, B, or C, or any other Sunday, actually, in the entire liturgical cycle, again, whether it's year A, B, or C, is Mary's Magnificat proclaimed as the Sunday Gospel. And so though it's read in its entirety on 3 weekdays a year, special days, May 31st, the Visitation, August 15th, which is the Assumption of Mary, and then actually December 22nd, which is when that falls on a weekday, in that week before Christmas. But the Magnificat is never read on Sunday as the Gospel. Selections of it are actually read as a responsorial on the third Sunday of Advent in year B. Here I go again. When Mark's is the primary gospel. But Mary's name isn't used, and some of the best parts are kind of excerpted out, like that line about the arrogant of mind and heart being dispersed. So I know I've gotten a little bit into the weeds here on lectionary and liturgical cycle, but I wanted to lift up Mary's prophetic voice on this particular Tuesday in Advent because I don't want you to miss it. I don't want you to miss it. Like John the Baptist, who's he's echoing, as I said, Isaiah's words, the voice crying out in the desert, prepare the way of the Lord. Mary is also echoing the great Hebrew prophets from the Old Testament, Miriam and Hannah. Miriam and Hannah, prophets of the Old Testament. So Miriam, you might recall, is Moses' sister, and she's the one who followed his basket down the river, and then she very cleverly convinced Pharaoh's daughter to let this Hebrew woman nurse Moses, and that Hebrew woman happened to be Moses' mother and Miriam's mother. So very clever. But she was also with Moses and Aaron as they led the Hebrew people to safety when they fled the Egyptians. They crossed the Red Sea. Red Sea parted, and then horse and chariot fell into the water as the waters closed over them. So when they made it to safety on the other side, the prophet Miriam, as she's called in the 15th chapter of Exodus, the prophet Miriam, she sang a rousing song of triumph. And there's a fragment of it that's found in Exodus. But in recent years, because of the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Judean desert in 1947, more of Miriam's song has been recovered. And Miriam's song became the basis of Hannah's song. And Hannah, also a Old Testament figure, she was Samuel's mother. That's Samuel who anointed King Saul and then anointed King David. And Hannah had prayed and prayed and prayed for a child. And then when she had a child and she went to the temple to dedicate him, she prayed this rousing prayer. And it begins, "My heart exalts in the Lord." And it includes the lines, "Do not let arrogance issue from your mouths." And ends with, or in between, beginning and end, has the lines, "Raises the needy from the dust, and from the ash heap lifts up the poor." Now, as Hannah's song, you probably guessed, became the basis of Mary's song. So each of these women's prophetic utterances comes at a critical time of God's covenant with God's people. Miriam's, when God is promising a holy nation. Hannah's, when God is promising a holy kingdom. And Mary, when God is fulfilling the promise of the Messiah, who will bring about a kingdom that will have no end. And yet, the readings at our Easter Vigil, and here I go with the lectionary again, that recount all of salvation history, you know, when we have those like 15 readings or something like that, it recounts the history of God's covenants and his promises and the fulfillment of them in Jesus. It includes Exodus 15, but it cuts off right before Miriam's song, right before. And Hannah's song is heard once every 3 years on a Saturday in ordinary time. So I have an Advent assignment for you, and I would say I have a reflection to suggest to you, but in my classroom, so I'm calling it an assignment. First, I write this down. First, listen to the sung prayer of each of these three women. So I've attached links to creative recordings of Miriam's song, Hannah's song, and Mary's song, the Magnificat, the Canticle. Okay, that's one. 2, ponder how these women speak out for the voices that are muted and excluded, as even theirs have been in our Catholic liturgies. And now 3, ask for their intercession to help each of us incline our ears toward the excluded voices today, listening for what wisdom they contain about what the kingdom that has no end looks like and sounds like.